Unemployment in San Diego County continues to drop below state and national averages, hitting 5.3% in February. Here to explain the links between jobs and the local economy are my guest, Marnie Cox, Chief Economist for San Diego's Association of Governments, or SANDAG, and Eric Bruvold, President of National University System Institute for Policy Research. And Marnie, so San Diego is doing slightly better than the state and much better than national averages when it comes to unemployment. What do you think is behind our continued job growth?
Well, I'd say there's a couple things behind it. One, you can take a look at the individual sectors. Employment and health and education has been about half of the job growth for San Diego, so that's one of them. But the second has been the general turnaround in the economy here associated with what I would call relatively low-paying job growth. So we've got single sectors, which have had a lot of jobs, and then a lot of relatively low-paying jobs, which contributed.
And let's talk about that, Eric. Where do we see the job growth? If they're higher in these areas, where do we see job growth the slowest?
So we're still seeing about 30,000 jobs off or below the peak we were in construction. Manufacturing kind of continues a little bit of sort of bottoming along where it's been. And then retail has grown, but it hasn't returned to where we saw it at peak levels here in the region's economy.
Construction seems a little surprising at first because you see all these buildings going up and downtown. Is there a particular part of construction?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest part is probably the folks that would work on single-family homes, and sort of that carpenter and general sort of craftsman's levels remain depressed from where they were back in, say, mid-2006, when we saw almost 90,000 or more than 90,000 people in the county work in the construction industry.
Good indicator of that is the permits, where we expect about 12,000 new housing unit permits each year. We're at about 6,000, down about 2,000 from last year, which we were about 8,000. So the residential sector has not come back the way that we had anticipated.
Maybe that other commercial building that we're seeing
Correct.
around town. A recent wage report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics found that wage growth in San Diego County was the slowest among 10 of the largest regions in the nation. You're both shaking your head on that. Eric, let's start with you. Why do you think that is?
Now, again, there are two parts to that answer. One is on this construction side and some other areas that would provide middle wage or middle kinds of jobs. We just haven't seen them return to pre-recession levels. And then the second thing that's going to drive those numbers down is that we've seen growth in our hospitality and leisure and other lower wage sector jobs and occupations, which depress that overall median value.
And Marnie, what do you think it would take to see an increased wage growth here, or at least a faster one?
Well, maybe a couple things. One, actually low wage growth has been with us a long time. You can date this back almost 20 plus years, and it goes to what Eric just said. The proportion of jobs here that are generated in particular industries such as hospitality or low paying, we continue to invest in it. And so we grow the hospitality industry with public funds to do that. In order to get wages up in the near term, we're probably going to have to put a lot more people to work, create some pressure inside the labor force so there are less excess workers around, so that employers feel like they need to raise wages in order to either keep or attract new employees.
Last week, the Federal Reserve said it might raise interest rates as early as June. What happens if that happens? I want to say, how would that impact unemployment here?
Yeah, typically higher interest rates will slow your economy down. I don't think that's what the Federal Reserve wants to do. I think it's fearful of that. I think that they're no longer going to use so much the unemployment rate to determine when they should start raising those interest rates. So I think they're looking at other indicators out there, such as labor force participation, the value of the dollar, things like that, in order to give an impression about when they might start rising.
I think those signals were to the market and to try and calm market fears. But I think I would agree with Marnie. If we look at the strength of the dollar, if we look at the slowdown in China and the challenges that Europe has, I don't think we'll see a raise in interest rates till at least Q3, if not till early 2016.
And Eric, I have to end on this. Defense Secretary Ash Carter told Congress last week that they might be forced to cut the military budget if sequestration continues. What kind of impact would that have here in San Diego?
San Diego remains a place which the military is an important part of our economy, and particularly defense procurement, which would be the first thing to go if budgets remain tight at the Pentagon because of sequestration. So that remains a worry, and it's one of those speed bumps that could bump up our unemployment and depress job growth.
All right, Eric Bruvold and Marnie Cox, thanks so much for the update.
Thank you.
Thank you.